good morning, good morning. Happy new week. Happy Monday. I hope that you had an amazing weekend. I hope you get a chance to spend time with your family and that you're starting a great week so far. So today we have a special time to hear testimonies of women that were sexually abused during the genocide against the Tutsis of 1994. And I have the honor because this talking about this kind of topic is not a very easy topic. I myself, I was sexually abused, and I know that it's not an easy thing to talk about your own pain and about things that you encounter, especially if you are being sexually abused by multiple people. So those victims that went through this atrocity, they asked Mr. or Miss Das to share their story. And he wrote a book called Sortie et de l'enfer du génocide. It's in French, but it's actually, as we speak, it's in process of being translated, and it will come out next year in the English version. So I'm so excited for that because you need to hear that. You need to read that story, that book, because I read it and I'm telling you, it's painful. It is powerful, but it's filled with testimonies of people that it will help. It will help many people to heal from their wound as they read that book. So without further ado, I'm going to bring them here. So good morning, Mr. Francois and Mr. or Miss Das. Before we start, Mr. Francois, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself before we give the time to Mr. or Miss Das?
Okay, thank you. My name is Naganda Francois Xavier. Hormistas usually introduces himself as a genocide survivor. I'm not a genocide survivor in his way, but in my own. Be- Because if I was in Rwanda in 1994, I should be here today.
Yeah.
In 1973, I was a student at the National University of Rwanda, and 1973 is one of the momentous moments in history. So we were brutally ousted from the university. We had to run away for our lives. And this is how I left Rwanda and became a refugee for about 20 years.
Wow.
Uh,
Where were
uh,
you? Where were you? Where did you go to?
in Zaire. I was in Zaire.
Oh, you were in the
Congo.
Republic in Congo
I
Republic.
went first to Burundi, then from Burundi to the Congo, to the DRC. It was Zaire at the time. Uh, I feature in this platform, on this platform, as a translator, as interpreter of the narrator's story. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francois. I don't consider you as an interpreter in this platform alone. Yes, I'm so
Thank you very
grateful
much.
that you
Thank you very
that
much.
you interpret, but your input is very important because yes, like you said, you really are, in a way, you are a genocide survivor because if you were in Rwanda, you would either be a genocide survivor or you will be remembered as somebody
Right,
who was
right.
alive. So it's important to mention that. But also the reason why I'm so grateful to have you on this platform is because of your knowledge, because you are a knowledgeable person. Like even though you lived in exile, not because you ran away, but because you had to run for your life, just like I had to
Right.
leave Rwanda too. It wasn't like we did it because we wanted to do it. But you have the history, you have some input as a lecturer that is going to help also people, especially people that are not Rwandan, to have the history, the full history of Rwanda, because most of people who talk about Rwandan are not even Rwandan. Some of them didn't even live the atrocity that we lived. But you may have not been there physically, but you had an indirect like effect. Your family members were killed, like you lost people in the genocide. So definitely you had an effect. There was an effect that happened to you. So there's no Tutsi in the genocide, whether you were in Rwanda or not, that did not get a direct or indirect effect in their lives. So thank you so much, Mr. Francois. You are not
Uh,
just an
uh,
interpreter. For me, you are. I think you are how do you call it? No, is it collaborator or like a contributor? You contribute. You are a
Contribute. Thank
contributor
you.
because you add also the value and the information and the history to share to our people that are viewing us. So thank you so much, Mr. Francois.
Thank you.
So
Well,
today, Mr. Or
Let me
Mr.
let me add one thing. Another
Okay,
thing
okay.
is that another thing is that in 1959 I was 11 years old, and that's in 1959 that the first elements of genocide started. So I experienced the whole history of genocide from start to finish.
Oh my God, Mr. Francois, we need to have your story because we
Yes.
need to hear your story.
Yeah. This is testimony.
Why did you tell us that? I've never heard that you were you were in the genocide because you were 11. 11, that's a long, like you
I
were
was
you were
11
old enough
in
to know.
1959.
Oh my gosh. Mr. Francois, we need your testimony. I know today you are going to
Yeah.
interpret, but please, we need to find the time to hear your testimony because you definitely have like a clear memory of the genocide against the Tutsis of 1959 because I always, after hearing the story of Mr. Alexandre, I was really amazed by the impact and the length of the genocide against the Tutsis in 1959 because it started in 1959 but it went until 1973 or 19 whatever. So that's a long time, and it wasn't like it's not like people don't really talk a lot about 1959. They talk more about 1994, but we need also to talk about 1959 because that was the beginning of the ideology of the hatred against the Tutsis. So yes, we would love to hear your testimony. So please
Sure,
prepare
I
your
will
story.
one day. I will.
That's
Yeah.
that's amazing. I didn't even know that you survived the genocide against the Tutsis of 1959 at 11. Wow, wow, wow. So where were you? Were you in Butare?
No, no, my home country is former Nyanza,
The
Nyanza
Congo.
territory in former
Okay.
when we were still under the Belgian rule, which later on became the Congo prefecture. So
Oh,
next to Butare to the west.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
Which
Mr.
is
Francois,
a region. Yeah.
we need your testimony.
I will. I will give one.
I already have questions. I already have questions ready in my head to ask you. Because I mean, I'm fascinated. Like honestly, like it's an honor. Like I told you, you are an answer to my prayer because I always pray to have people that know the history, that have lived the history because it's so. I did a lot of research about the genocide and the history of Rwanda, and most of the books that I've read were written by people in the West, like by
Yeah.
historians in the West that wrote the
Yeah.
history of Rwanda. But I'm like, God, where will I find somebody who lived it, who can talk about it so that we can have, it's better to have the story from the horse's mouth. Like, why do we have to
That's
go to
right.
the West to find the history of the people that are living in Rwanda? So, so please prepare. I have question. I have a lot of questions that I already have in my head.
I don't have to prepare. I have everything in my on my how do you call it?
Mumutwe,
Mu
in your
mutwe,
head,
mu mutwe
in
when
your
nashaka
head,
kuvuga biriya bya computer on my
in your mind.
yeah.
Your hardware, your
Oh, exactly.
your
on my hardware.
Seriously, we need to have a testimony of, like, seriously, like, this is, I mean, this is so good because, like, it's important, especially for those who think that, the genocide started in the 1990s. It's not even in the 1990s. It was not even in the 1980s. It's not even in the 70s. It was in 1959. Like, that's a long time of hatred. That's like literally how many generations before, like it was like generation after generation of hatred, like building up this hatred and this like animosity. That's why, like John said in his testimony, he said they had become monsters because they had heard so much about how the Tutsis are bad, that they just were killing us like we were just animals or nobody. So yes, I can't wait to interview you. Yes, I am excited because this is amazing. 11? That's a long. Oh my Jesus. Yeah, you need to share your testimony definitely. So,
Sure, I
Mr.
will.
Omistas,
Yeah,
Mr. Omistas, so you have written a book. For me, I read two of your book. I read your two books, okay, and
yeah,
Heritage from Father, and then I read also Sorted and then I fed Genocide. But Heritage from Father is like your story as a genocide survivor, like what happened to you, what you went through from to be able to become the person that you are today, to forgive and to live a life of freedom. But the second book, for me, if I have to really like choose what impacted me the most, they both impacted me, but the second one impacted me the most because it's stories that are shocking, but they also carry a very big testimony of hope and future. And
yeah,
today we are going to talk about a topic of women that were sexually abused, and those testimonies were given to you by women that that cannot fully talk publicly and share their pain, but that are willing to share their story and for the world to know what they went through, but
yeah,
they're not yet ready to show their face and share their name, which is understandable because as a sexual abuse survivor, it takes a long time to go from a place of shame to forgiving yourself, forgiving those who hurt you, and being able to fully embrace your story and talk publicly. So I
yeah,
really salute them because it's not easy to even share it to another man. And those women came to you and they shared their story, and you are a man. So that's already a healing and that's already a victory. So
yeah,
many people know you here in this platform. You are not a new face, like you are always
yeah,
on the interview, but today you are going to be the person who is going to be the spokesperson and who's going to
yeah,
share their story.
yeah.
So before you start, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself before we start?
Yes, yes. My name is Hormis Das Ndaishimie. I am genocide survivor and author. I live in Rwanda with my wife and two children. But my English is not good. I have to speak in Kinyarwanda because you have also an interpreter. And um, mu by'ukuri ndagira ngo mvuge mu rurimi rwanjye rw'ikinyarwanda kuko icyongereza ndacyumva ariko sinkivuga neza ashobora
In the truth,
gutranslatinga.
I'd like to express myself in my mother tongue, Kinyarwanda. Well, I do speak and listen to English, but not very, very well. So I'd better express myself in my mother tongue, Kinyarwanda.
Yeah. Ibyo mvuga rero ibyo ngiye kubabwira ni ubuhamya bw'abantu bampaye nk'umuntu babonye w'umwanditsi barambwira ngo ubwo buhamya nzabugeze ku bantu.
The story I'm going to tell is not mine. It's a testimony from a number of people who asked me to present them because they are unable to do so, probably due to emotional elements.
ariko inkuru ya mbere namenye ntabwo nari nabo umwanditsi ahubwo nari umuseribateri n'umukobwa twakundanaga.
The first story is I'm going to tell is one of a girl who came to be my friend, but at the time I was not yet a writer.
Yego, njye nashakaga ko twazabana kuko nabonaga ari umukobwa mwiza, umukobwa wasengaga, ndamukunda.
She was his girlfriend.
Girlfriend. Yeah. So my wish at the time was to marry her because I really loved her.
Ariko kuvuga girlfriend menya ahari ntavuga ko ari byo kuko
that's why I hesitated. Aline.
I'm sorry.
Aline.
So yari inshuti ye ntabwo yari girlfriend.
No. Yari inshuti ye.
Yari inshuti, ndabasobanurira.
I know what a girlfriend means in English, in America, in England, or whatever. But I think that she was a friend of his, not a girlfriend.
My apologies.
Oya, mu by'ukuri kugira ngo mubyumve neza, nari umuseribateri ariko nshaka uwo tubana, noneho nkajya njya gusenga mu kiliziya.
So Hormidas at the time was a bachelor and was used to go to church to pray for a wife or what?
Yes. Noneho ariko nyine uko njya gusenga nkabona umukobwa mwiza w'inkumi uri musenga nawe.
So anytime we went to church for prayer, he always saw one so beautiful girl, such a beautiful girl, who was there all the time I went there.
Kuva ubwo rero nubwo nasengaga nka rimwe kabiri mu cyumweru noneho nagiye buri munsi.
So though I used to go to church 1 or twice a week, so because I saw she was regular, so I started going there every day.
Yego. Noneho uko twarangiza gusenga rero naramuvugishaga.
So whenever we finished the prayer, I talked to her.
Ariko yari afite ukuntu yitwara ntashoboraga kumva koko ntabwo yakundaga umuntu umwegera niba muvugana yashyiragamo nka metero ebyiri akavuga ati ukabona n'ibintu bidasanzwe.
Yeah, but she had a strange behavior which I could not understand. She would not like her vis-a-vis the speaker in front of her to be much too close to her. She would like to keep a distance, some distance.
Yego.
Which at the time I could not understand.
Yego. Ubwo rero nagize amatsiko rwose yo kumumenya nagira ngo ni isoni kandi ngiye nikundiraga abakobwa bagira isoni.
So I was so curious to know what the origin of that behavior. I imagined that she was just shy, because in my nature I do like girls who are shy.
Yes.
Which is let me make a comment maybe for our hearers. So in Rwandan culture, maybe we are going to today we would say that it is not women friendly, but girls, particularly girls and women, married women, used to be a bit shy, a bit demure, so not to be showy. So, and this I think what Hormidas also liked in the girl.
icyo gihe nari mfite imodoka nagendagamo, nataha nkamubwira ngo naze mutahane akanga.
At the time, I had a car, and when I offered her to drive her home, she refused.
Yes. Noneho mbonye bitinze hashize igihe ndavuga nti mva reka mubwire ikindi ku mutima.
After some time, I really decided to tell her what was on my mind.
Namubwiye ngo ndagukunda.
I told her that I loved her.
Yego.
I love you.
Icyantangaje nawe nubwo yashyiragamo distance, nawe yarabwiye ngo nanjye ndagukunda.
The amazing thing is that her answer was the same. I do love you too.
Yego. Noneho ubwo urumva narishimye igihe cyose nari maze mugendaho, narishimye nagize ibyishimo byinshi.
So then I was so happy, so glad.
Yego. Noneho rero nyuma yaje kwemera ko mutwara mu modoka nkamugeza aho yari atuye.
Afterwards, she now accepted let me drive her home.
Noneho tugeze aho yari atuye yabanaga na mukuru we, ariko mukuru we ntiyari ahari.
She lived with her sister, and when we got there, her sister was absent at the time, at the moment.
Yari wenyine, noneho anyereka aho nicara, ariko noneho tugiye kwicara nanone ashyiramo ya distance.
Okay, she showed me a seat, but respecting the uncanny distance.
Byarantangaje.
The 6 foot distance. It was a 6 foot.
Mu by'ukuri wari gukeka ko ari muri iki gihe bavuga ngo hari covid ngo mushyiremo metero ebyiri, nawe urebye niko yabigenjeje rwose niko yabigenza.
So she was behaving like we were in a COVID situation, keeping at least 2 meters between speakers.
Ariko mu by'ukuri yari agiye kumbwira inkuru ye ikomeye cyane, yambwiraga ko atigeze abwira abandi.
But in reality, she wanted to tell me her own story, which she had never told anyone else.
Yego. Yaratangiye rero ambwira ko yafashwe ku ngufu.
She started telling me she was sexually abused.
Kandi katafashwe ku ngufu n'umuntu umwe, ahubwo yafashwe ku ngufu n'abantu benshi muri Genocide.
Not only by one person, but many persons.
Ngo bamufata ku ngufu bakaza ari igroupe, akagira ngo birarangiye, bagenda ngo hakaza abandi.
They would come in a group, and after the group finished, she imagined that she hoped that that would be the last group. But after they had left, another group would come and do the same.
Byageze aho rero agata umutwe akifuza ko banamwica ariko ntibamwice.
At a time, she was out of her mind, and she really started to wish she could die.
Yego, iyo nkuru rero murumva yarankomerekeje cyane ariko nanjye.
So her story was created a kind of so in myself, so shocked me very hard.
Yego. Noneho aranambwira ngo nsanze amaze gukira, ngo koko ubundi iyo yabonaga umugabo uri hafi we ngo yararukaga.
She even told me that the way I was looking at her, that she was somehow restored, because previously she would not stand a man, and that every time she saw a man, she would vomit.
Yego. Nuko yabonye ko mufite impuhwe nyinshi ariko ambwira n'andi makuru yose y'abakobwa bari kumwe ukuntu bafashwe ku ngufu ambwira amakuru menshi y'abakobwa n'abagore muri jenoside.
So with me, she realized I sympathized with her, and she was freed and started telling me more about herself and even about her friends who had been also sexually abused.
Yego yatangiye rero ngo icyamubabaje cyane we yari umukobwa wamaze kugera mu myaka 18 ariko icyamubabaje cyane n'abana bato b'imyaka 10 bafataga ku ngufu.
The one thing which made her so sad was 10-year girls, children who were sexually abused. By that time, she boasted to be at least 18 years, but there were 10-year girls who were also sexually abused. That's what could make her so sad.
Yambwiye urugero rw'ahantu yari yihishe, noneho bazana abana kubafata ku ngufu, abana bato b'imyaka 19 gutyo, ahantu yari yihishe mu rutoki.
A good example is when she was hiding in a banana grove, and then they brought about 10-year girls who were sexually abused on the spot.
Ariko icyo ngira ngo nibutse abatwumva, icyo ngira ngo mbibutse no kugira ngo bumve ko niba tuvuga ibi bintu bikomeye ari ukugira ngo hatazagira bongera kubikora, ari ukugira ngo abana bazadaturukaho n'abakiri bato na generation zizaza batazakora ibintu nk'ibyo. Niyo mpamvu mbona imbaraga zo kubivuga, ubundi ntabwo nabivuze ubundi.
And my message to my listeners is to try to let them understand that this should not be done anymore in future generations. And this is the reason why, this is where I take enough strength to be able to tell this, to hope that these things will never happen again.
Yego, icyamubabaje rero ngo hari umwana bafashe abona ari benshi, baza ari benshi, none umwana agataka cyane.
The one thing which a particular incident which really shocked her so much is a 10-year girl who was sexually abused by so many people, and she would cry so hard that it broke her heart.
Abamufataga bumvise ka asakuza cyane, bagendanaga ibiti bisongoye, les bambous pointus.
When the rapers realized she was crying so much, so they brought about pointed sticks, bamboo sticks, which they would introduce, I guess, in her parts.
Noneho rero ubwo bafashe icyo kibambu gisongoye bamushyira muri mu mwanya we, mu ses parties intimes, baramujomba, barigendera basagara ataka, barigendera bamusiga icyo giti kimurimo, barigendera ataka, noneho wa mukobwa mwumva anabireba.
So his friend saw with her eyes, heard with her ears the little girl crying after they introduced the bamboo stick in her parts, and it was terrible.
Ayo makuru yambwiye, ikibabaje usanga mu duce tw'u Rwanda hose harabaye ibintu nk'ibyo, nicyo cyantangaje nanone.
So her story about these rapes definitely was the same story all around Rwanda. So meaning that in the whole country, such such savage acts of rape or whatever happened everywhere the same way.
Yego. Mu by'ukuri hari n'undi wabyanditse ni General Romeo Dallaire mu gitabo cye yanditse titre yacyo ndayibagiwe ariko ngo ni nko guhura na shitani niko yakise. Ariko avugamo nawe ibintu byamushotse kari gusanga kuko yarakuriye UN, noneho aho bagendaga ngo basangaga abagore n'abana nk'uko ibyo biti bibarimo cyangwa bashyizemo amacupa, ibice by'amacupa.
General Romeo Dallaire, who was I think the top officer, the top commander of the UN peacekeeping force in Rwanda at the time of genocide, also wrote about his book is I shook the devil's hand, something like this.
Yes.
I shook the devil's hand. Yeah.
It's
The exact title is.
I read that book. I greeted, or I greeted the. No, yes, I shook the devil's hand. It's either I greeted the devil's hand, or I shook the devil's hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
I shook the devil's hand. So General Romeo Dallaire also wrote about these kinds of rapes because he would be touring the country and from all places he found dead bodies of women with those sticks in their parts. So meaning it was a general case throughout the country.
Ibyo rero yakomeje kumbwira amakuru y'ibyo bintu byo gufatwa ku ngufu ku bagore biteye ubwoba, arambwira turanyemerera ubyumve uzabyandike, ati gihe sinshobora kubivuga, wowe igihe uzabona umwanya byose uzabivuge.
So my friend said, I'm going to tell you as many stories as I can, but please tell about them, and if you can, write about them.
Genocide rero irangiye hari abahunze bajya muri Congo.
After the genocide, a number of people fled to the Congo, which was Zaire at the time.
Yego, ariko hari interahamwe zajyanaga abakobwa b'abatutsi zikabajyana muri Congo.
And the Interahamwe took forcefully, of course, for a number of girls to the Congo.
Hari abari bemeye kubagira nk'abagore babo, nibura we ntafatwe na benshi ariko agafatwa n'umwe akamugira umugore we ariko ku ngufu atabyemera nyine babyumva.
So some militia men Interahamwe had really taken these girls as their own, as their wives.
Noneho hari umwe rero wari nyuma baje gutwita.
Of course, a number of them got pregnant.
Yego, ngo hari uwamubwiye rero wavuga ngo yibazaga ukuntu azonsa umwana w'interahamwe yishe umuryango we. Hari umukobwa wabimubwiye nyine avuga ati yari atwite icyo gihe, none akavuga ati uyu mwana nzamwonsa nzamugaburira nte ko ari umwana w'umuntu wishe umuryango wanjye.
So one of the pregnant girls told his friend that she was wondering how she was going to feed, how she was going to breastfeed a child born from someone who had killed her own family.
Yego. Ukundi kuri rero nuko hari abakobwa bamwe bafashwe ku ngufu biyemeje gukuramo inda rwose.
Another type of stark reality is that many girls decided just to abort those unwanted pregnancies.
yego yambwire batatu bari biyemeje gukuramo inda.
So she told me about 3 of those who decided on abortion.
Yego noneho rero umwe yaje kwikuramo ariko kubera ko bakoreshaga uburyo butari bwiza agira ibibazo aza kugira infection coronavirus.
Oh, yes. So one who tried abortion did it in use an unprofessional method, and she got problems, side effects from the abortion, including she was infected, and definitely her womb was removed. Her womb was removed.
Urumva rero nubwo yari yarokotse ubwo ibyo kubyara byari birangiye ntabwo yatekereje kongera kubyara, birumvikana ko byari birangiye.
So she survived the genocide, but it was at the end of the day for any idea of having children.
Yego none babiri bandi babonye bigenze gutyo, umwe aravuga ati noneho ugiye nzamubyara murere.
So two others learned from this experience and decided to deliver, to give birth to the children and raise them.
Uwa gatatu yaravuze ati ati sinzayikuramo koko nabonye ari bibi ariko nzamubyara bamujyane. Yumvikanye n'abantu, yaravuze ati nzamubyara mfuke mu maso simubone, muhitemo mujyana sinzamubone.
So one of these said, I'm going to give birth to the baby, but I do not want to look even in his face. So I look as far away as I can and give him her and give it, actually babies are used, and give it to someone who would take it as far as possible, far from me.
Ugushaka ko rero kwarubahirijwe ngo harababikira koko bamufashe baramujyana bajya kumurera, ariko bavugana ko atashaka kumenya hazaba ari kuba zamujyana hano kuri.
So her wish was answered, and the baby was taken indeed to a very, very far away place where he could not hear about it, where he could not see it.
Yes. Noneho ariko wa wundi wamubyaye rero uko yamwonsaga arimo amwosa agateruye yarariraga buri gihe, yarariraga akamwonsa arira.
With the one who decided to keep her baby, every time she breastfed her baby, she would be always crying. And of course, tears running down her face and probably on the baby.
No, akana yabaga ateruye uko gakura kakabona mamarira.
So as the baby was growing up, she noticed that the mother was crying.
No, rero umunsi umwe ukaje kuzamura intoki ze, udutoki twakana ngo gahanagura nyina mu maso. Oh
my God. So one day she raised her little hand, her little fingers, and wiped away her mother's tears.
Yes. Noneho izindi chance uwo mukobwa yagize, uwo mwana ngo yaje basa cyane.
So it was the mother was fortunate for the fact that the baby was so much her own image.
Yego. Noneho ahagiriye ku ishuri aba umwana w'umuhanga.
So when the baby started going to school, he was such a brilliant child.
yego yakomeje gutya umwana mwiza ufite uburere noneho ya marira yamuhanaguye akiri mu gatoya akomeza kuyamuhanagura.
Okay, so he or she became such a good child who were good that he continued to wipe away her mother's tears, figuratively and in reality.
Yego yaje kwiga arakura rwose aza kubana na buruse abo umwana uburiya cyane.
So he went on to go well with school until she finished probably secondary school and got a scholarship for university studies.
Yego noneho rero ba bandi babiri umwe wamukuyemo n'undi wamujugunyiye abandi baje uwo mwana yajyaga kubasura kuko bari inshuti ya mama we.
Good. So remember the two other girls, one who decided to abort, one decided for abortion, and the other who decided to send her baby far away. So the child who was born from the friends used to go and see them when he grew up.
Yego noneho rero abandi batangiye kurogereta,
and of course they started to be sorry, to regret the acts.
Yego ariko kuko yakuze rwose ari umwana mwiza akajya ajya kubagira inama, nawe aza kuba consolation ya mama we n'abo bandi babiri.
The good story is that the child so continue to go on visiting these other girls, and she became a kind of consolation for her mom, but also for her mom's two friends.
Yego tuvuge urwo ni urugero rero rw'inkuru yagenze neza, ariko ndababwira izindi nazo zitagenze neza.
So this is an example for one story which ended well, but I have many others whose end was not so good.
Hari abandi nk'urugero nabaha, hari uwo umubyeyi we yabyaye nawe yemeye aramubyara, ariko imiryango ye haba ahavuka haba aho yashatse bamugira igicibwa, bakajya bamutuka nyine we n'umwana we.
An example of this sad stories is one girl who got pregnant, gave birth to the baby, but was then rejected by both her family and the family of her impregnator.
Yego hari n'undi wabyaye umwana nyine, uwo mwana yabyaranye n'interahamwe wafashwe ku ngufu, ariko aza gushaka umugabo.
Another girl gave birth to, was impregnated by interahamwe militia, and later on she found a husband who was not of that interahamwe, so another third party husband.
Ariko umugabo we akanga uwo mwana yabyaranye n'interahamwe, akamumaritireta cyane.
And almost naturally her husband disliked that interahamwe child.
Yego
and he used and mistreated him or her.
Nk'ayo makuru yo y'abana bavutse ku bagore bafashwe ku ngufu yo tuzabona n'ubuhamya bwayo kuko barahari bamaze kuba basore barakuze n'inkumi.
So definitely we'll end up receiving testimonies of those children born of interahamwe, because some of them are now grown-ups.
yego rwose bemeye kuyatanga. Hari n'uwo twari dutegereje ko azaduha ubuhamya ariko ntarabona umwanya, ariko nizeye ko azaboneka akaduha ubuhamya bw'ubuzima bubi yabayemo.
So they accepted. They said that they were ready to give us that kind of testimony.
Yego kuko ubuzima bwabo bugiye bunyuranye, ariko murebye bwabaye ubuzima bubi bw'ingorane, bwo gushyirwa ku ruhande, bwo kujugunywa. Ntabwo byaboroheye na gato abo bana bavutse ku bagore bafashwe ku ngufu.
So it is not an easy life for the children born of Interahamwe militia and Tutsi girls. Their lives, of course, are individual different because one is an individual, but they have a common stem that they are suffering, being rejected by society, by as you said, by both fathers and mothers family, so rejected from every side.
Icyiza rero hagiye haba za association cyangwa za ONG zibashyira hamwe.
Fortunately, there are associations and NGOs which started gathering these children.
Yego n'abamama babo bakabafasha, bakabakorera imishinga kugira ngo bave mu bukene,
and helping the mothers get out of poverty, helping them creating running projects.
Yego hari imibare yatangiye kwiyakira rwose, ugasanga noneho umwana yatangiye kwiyakira, yemeye ko ari umwana w'umuntu w'umwicanyi, ariko ubuzima bwe akabwakira, barimo rwose biga, ukabona bariyakiriye.
Then many of the children have started accepting their lives, being reconciled with themselves, with the history of being born of Interahamwe militia.
Hari abandi rero byaje kunanira, hari abandi byananiye burundu rwose, ugasanga baracyafite ibikomere, abo nabo ngira ngo baracyari mu nzira, ahari bizoroha, ariko baracyari mu nzira yo kurwana n'ibikomere. Hari abo usanga yarananiwe kwiga, donc ibyo bibazo nabyo biracyahari.
But some other did not make it. They are still struggling to reconcile with their own history. They are still those are still wide open, but we hope that one day they also get over and reconcile, get reconciled with their own history.
Tugarutse rero kuri uwo mukobwa wamuhaye amakuru yose, tumugarutseho.
Coming back to the girl who gave me all these stories.
Yego ugiye nashakaga ko tubana, ntibyashobokaga kuko yari akirwaye, urumva yari akiri mu bibazo.
My wish was to marry her, but this was impossible because she was still struggling with her history.
Ariko maze gushyingirwa, kuko yari yambwiye ko bidashoboka atazabana n'abagabo bibaho, yari yambwiye ko bidashoboka.
So because she had told me that it was impossible to live with a man, I looked everywhere, and after I was married,
narashyingiwe ndabyara, noneho tumaze kubyara umwana wa mbere nagiye kubona agenda invitation ya mariage.
Ngwiki subiramo.
Jewe narashyingiwe, tuza no kubyara hashize nk'imyaka 5 urebye. Wa mukobwa wambwiraga amakuru, wambwiraga ko adashobora no kuzabana n'umugabo na rimwe, yatuzaniye invitation.
So after our Hormitas was married and even had children, 5 years later, the girl, his friend, came to see them, bring them an invitation for marriage.
Yego.
Invitation mariage. So bring to them an invitation for wedding,
yego
her own
noneho
wedding,
byari byiza
Wow.
her
koko
own wedding.
yaje ampa invitation ariko arananshimira cyane ngo naramufashije sinzi icyo namufashije ariko buhoro buhoro nibwo yatangiye gukira noneho nyuma waje kumuganiriza nyuma yasanze yarakize barashyingira.
So due to our interaction, she started getting better and better and better, so that the other young men who came to talk to her found her completely healed up, completely healed. She was ready now to receive a man, to talk to a man without the famous distance.
yaje rero
The
gushyingirwa
6 foot distance.
yaje gushyingirwa n'ubu turahura tukaburaga akavuga ati we waje igihe kitaragera ubwo ni Imana yabishatse.
She was married, and so when today we talk about this, she jokingly says, "So when you came, it was not really time."
Yego rwose turahura bafite urugo rwiza ameze neza yarabyaye.
Now she has a good household. She has children now.
Yego iyo ni inkuru wumva noneho yarangiye neza nubwo yahuye n'ibibazo bikomeye cyane yabikubwiye wumva ko atari gukira ariko ubu yarakize wumva rero ari igitangaza cy'Imana.
So though the girl went through very, very difficult moments, her story is one of success, because she healed, got married, have a good family.
Ariko buri gihe aranyibutsa ngo ya makuru nakubwiye ko ntarabona uyandika ngo yavuge numve ariko utavuga ko agiye we yakubwiye.
Yeah, but she keeps reminding me that he has not yet published or told her story or written her story or published the story. She told him about her own and her friends. So she keeps reminding me, you must tell the story. You might publish the story.
Mu by'ukuri rero yatumye ntangira ikindi gitabo nise seshemerame nkuko nakibabwiye.
Subiramo ndumva ntuzitangiye kujya cikagurika gatoya.
Ndavuga ni mu by'ukuri ayo makuru yambwiye yatumye hari chapitre nashyize muri igitabo cyanjye Sortire Endemne, ariko hari n'ikindi natangiye nise seshemerame wipe my tears.
So concerning her problem about the stories, I started writing them, and with one book entitled "Wipe My Tears Away."
Yego icyo ni igice kimwe nababwiye cy'umuntu wampaye guhamya. Uwa kabiri rero noneho wampaye guhamya yabumpaye we ni umubyeyi wari ukuze muri Genocide, ariko kuko yambonye kuri televiziyo mvuga ku gitabo cyanjye cya mbere aravuga turiya nanjye nzamuha amakuru nabyo azabyandika.
So far, I was talking about someone who told me her story and the other stories, but there is someone else who was really a grown-up, maybe elderly during Genocide, who happened to see me on the TV telling stories about genocide, and he asked me also to tell his own story.
Mu by'ukuri
It is
rero
or he or she, I don't know. Is it
mu
a he or
by'ukuri
she?
It's a
rero
woman. It's a woman. It's a
Yeah,
woman.
A woman also.
Yeah.
yari umubyeyi muri Genocide, yari umuntu ukuze ariko ikintu kibabaje cyane abamufashe ku ngufu n'abana batatu b'umugabo we yareze.
So she was an elderly woman, married and having children. But what is terrible is that she was raped by the children of her own husband, children she had raised in her own family.
Yego. Aho rero nawe yarambwiye ati ibyo bintu ni ibintu ntazashobora kuvuga ariko uzabyandike uvuge ko byabayeho n'isi bimenye.
So those are things she would not really accept in her life, but she asked him to tell the story so that the whole world may know about it.
Yego. Mu by'ukuri rero hari ntarambiranye amakuru y'abakobwa n'abagore bafashwe ku ngufu muri jenoside uyasanga mu bice byose by'u Rwanda. Nicyo kintu kibabaje kuko babyita ngo ni intwaro ya jenoside, l'arme du génocide.
So in reality, I can tell all the stories, all such stories that happen around the country, but the core of all of them is that rape was a kind of weapon, during the genocide.
Mu by'ukuri rero hari abemeye kujya baduha ubuhamya, muzumva ubuhamya mu minsi izaza, muzumva ubundi buhamya burebana n'iki kibazo gikomeye cyane kandi giteye isoni kuko ubona ari ukubura ubumuntu, c'est manque d'humanité, c'est horrible.
Some people promising that they will give testimony about this terrible, shameful, crime against humanity.
Yego. Nkaba rero narangiriza ku magambo y'umuhanga witwa Albert Einstein,
and I'll end up quoting Albert Einstein's words.
Yego. Yabyanditse mu rurimi rw'icyongereza agira ati, the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. Ye ni ukuvuga ngo mu by'ukuri maze kubona aya magambo ya Albert Einstein, ni ukuvuga ko muri jenoside nabihuje na jenoside abayibonye ni benshi, ariko burya abashaka kuvuga ibyo babonye ni bake. Koko niba ari uko byari biteye ubwoba.
So when I came through Albert Einstein's words, I tried to link them to the genocide, and
so he tried, when he read the quote of Mr. Albert Einstein, he
connected with the genocide,
with the stories, and he realized that like it's important to talk about what happened, because not talking about what happened, we participate in repetition, in a future repetition of the atrocity that happened to those women during the genocide.
Ni ingenzi cyane kubivuga, atari ukugira ngo ducire imanza abantu, ariko ari ukugira ngo atazagira wongera gukora ayo makosa, ahubwo tugerageze kuyavamo tujya heza.
So it is important to talk about them, not because we wanted to stand as judges over the perpetrators, but because we want them not to be repeated again, so that the history of genocide may be remembered and then live a better life.
Kandi noneho kugira ngo wa wundi wabonye ukuri muri jenoside akicecekera, atavuga we ngo nta cyaha yakoze, ngo nta kibazo afite, kuko Albert Einstein avuga ko n'uceceka ahubwo ari we uzasenya isi kuko yabonye ibintu bibabaje aricecekera ntiyabivuga.
Okay, so it is a reminder also to those who witness genocide and who keep silent. They are in the wrong, absolutely in the wrong. They should say it aloud.
Yego. Narangiriza ku wundi wavuze mu rurimi rw'igifaransa ngo les gens sont comme des livres, ils trompent pas leur couverture.
So again, I'll finish by quoting a French saying that people are like books. They lie the same way books title do lie to us.
Kuko ushobora kubona couverture y'igitabo ukabona ni cyiza cyane ariko ibirimo atari byiza.
Yeah. So the title of a book will shine to you and will imagine that the content is shining while it's absolutely the contrary.
Yego. Naje no kubabwira umupadiri nabonaga wambaye imisaraba mubona mbiroma ariko uhora rwose ubona ari umukozi w'Imana iyo umurebye ariko nyuma baje kumbwira ngo niwe wasenye kiliziya ayisenyera ku bakristo barabamara ahantu hitwa Inyange.
I also talked about a priest I met in Rome with the cross and all the symbols of priesthood, of goodness. But I later learned that that very priest destroyed his own church and killed the people who had run for their lives and who were inside the church.
Murakoze rero ntarambiranye niba mufite ikibazo mwambaza ariko ndumva mu magambo make ari byo nashaka kubwira.
So I do not want to be too long. Thank you very much. If you have questions, please do ask them.
Well, so thank you so much for sharing your for sharing their testimony. It's for me, it's like when we're talking about this testimony before, you told me about the the place in Rusumo where they even kept those bamboo sticks that they were putting in the women's part, like as a museum and stuff like that. Like it's still there. Like those things are still, for those who are still like wondering, oh, is it really true? Like you can go to Rwanda. There are places where you can find those places, right? Where is it, Mr. Business? Nihehe.
Yego, nibyo aho nibagiye kuhavuga kuko hari ababitse ibimenyetso by'ibyo bintu bibi byakozwe. No ahantu hitwa Inyarubuye, François ngira ngo wumvise bahavuga Inyarubuye.
Narahagiye Inyarubuye ndahazi, narahagiye.
Inyarubuye wabonye ko babitse bya biti ngo bajombaga abagore mu myanya, barabibitse babishyira hamwe kugira ngo uzaza kuhasura azabibone. Nkuko wabonye ibyo biti imivure bamenaga amaraso nabyo warabibona
cyane rwose.
Barabibitse rero kugira ngo uzaza wese ajya bireba.
Yewe ntabwo nagiyeyo ngiye kwibuka, ariko twagiye tugiye gutabara umwarimu twakoranaga muri kaminuza ubwo turasanga niba Joseph wabumuzi se yari yapfuye yaratuye hariya, turamutabara ariko turangije dusaba ko batujyana ku rwibutso hariya Inyarabuye nyine ku kiliziya, byose barabitwereka.
Aho rero icyo navuga ni uko n'umunyamahanga uzaza gusura u Rwanda azahajye arebe ibyo bimenyetso by'ibyo bibi bakoraga biteye ubwoba byo kubura ubumuntu, byo kubura imanite.
niba agiye gutaraduiza
bitaraduiza ibyo
nta kibazo, reka mbikore kubera ni birebire cyane. So
oya nta kibazo, nakomeza gusa nuko nabyibagiwe.
nta kibazo mubikore. muribuka?
So Hormita says Aline had put a question. So you talked about sticks which were introduced into women's parts. Do you have uh, uh, places where these can be found? And Hormita's answer was that he gave the example of Nyaruye, a parish in the eastern part of the country, where those sticks were collected and put in the memorial, of course, as memorials to be remembered on this issue. And I add something on my own concerning this. Everywhere, if I remember well, everywhere I went for decent burials of genocide remains, we would find everywhere these sticks in women's parts. So everywhere. It was not Nyarabuye only, it was all over the country. It was kind of,
So is it for me? Okay, so I have this question in my head. Was it because, of course, the genocide was perpetrated, the genocide was prepared? Like, do you think, or maybe I need to ask one of the repentant genocide killer to answer that question? Do you think they were telling them to rape also women, or how were they doing the same technique of like raping them and then putting the stuff? Because it just, to me, it's like it's hard for me to comprehend that somebody in a village in the east was raping women the same way somebody in the village in the north was doing the same thing in the east, in the west, and those people never met each other. They don't have any phones, they don't have any communication. Like, so my question is, um do you think that they were also trained to rape those women like that? Or I don't know, maybe we need to ask one of those repentant genocide perpetrators to tell us if they were trained to do that.
ariko icyo umuntu atakwibeshyaho ni uko ubona ko byateguwe koko ntabwo wakumva ko mu majyaruguru barakoresha rebambu puwentipu tiwe dini faso horrible no mu majyepfo urumva ko ibyo bintu babyumvikanyeho ntabwo bishoboka ko byaba ari ibintu byizanye byarateguwe babiganiriyeho rwose.
Mr. Francois, did you hear it?
yeah. So Arin's question is, how come people did the same raping techniques all over the country? Were they asked, trained to do so, or did it came on the did it did they do it on themselves or by themselves? And of course, and Hormida's answer is that he thinks, and this is also my my opinion, he thinks that they were trained, that the word circulated from somewhere above to teach to use the same techniques everywhere for killing, for raping, and for all other genocide terrible acts. So probably, probably there was a word from above which could go be spread everywhere else around the country.
I'm just, Kuri, I'm speechless about this because, especially for the women, and I mean, as also a sexual abuse survivor, like, I'm happy to see that these women also got to heal, got to get married, got to build a family, got to have children, because sometimes it's hard to get stuck with the pain, that you feel like, what, I'm stuck, nobody will ever love me, but you can still find love. Like, this woman found love, I found love. Like, you can find love. It's not over. Like, your life should never be over. Like, we shouldn't just feel like, oh, you were sexually abused, so you will never find any man who will not treat you like the way you were treated before. But God can mend you, and and give you a new beginning, a future, a new start. So, um, but Mr. or Miss Das, the second woman, the elderly woman who asked you to share her story, uh, do you have her news? How did she? Is she healed? Did she forgive the people? Like, how is she now?
Oh, oya nta makuru y'uko yaba yarababariye. Eh, nagerageje no urumva yari yansabye ko nzabivuga, ariko ahari nshobora kuba rigiye wibagiwe kumubaza niba koko nshobora kuzamubaza niba yarababariye abo bantu, ariko mu by'ukuri ntabwo ntacyo mbiziho. Ngira ngo ni ikintu nazakora nkamubaza.
So Aline asked if for Miss Dawson, so there is an elderly woman who is raped by the children of her husband. She had raised herself, and Aline asks if what he did with her story. Is it right? And Hormida says that he doesn't know if she made it, if she could, she was able to forgive her rapers, and what bikurikiraho ntabwo nabyumvise neza.
And like, so he said he's going to ask her because he asked her if she healed, if she forgave, and he's going to follow up with her. But yeah, it's
Okay,
I mean,
great.
one of the reasons why we're sharing these stories, like Mr. Omista said, it's not to pinpoint the people or to expose people or to speak bad of people, but it's to make sure that it does not repeat itself. Because not talking about something that happened like this, it will repeat itself. Because we do have people that are denying what happened, that are trying to polish the history. So if we don't talk about this atrocity, as much as it is, as painful as it needs to be known. And that's why I'm so grateful that we have people, we have children that were born from rape that are going to come and share their story, because now they are 27, they are old enough, they are adults, and they know how it feels. They will share how they walk through that walk of shame, because every time they celebrate their birthday, it's a remembrance of the fact that their mother was raped by their father. And it's something that you don't want to, like, I mean, I don't wish to I don't wish to have been born from rape. Like, I can't even imagine the pain that they feel, like, of not belonging, because you don't belong in your father's side, because your father's family don't acknowledge your mother. Your mother's side also don't acknowledge you because you are a product of rape. You are a remembrance or a memory of the event that traumatized your mother. So you are a constant, like, trouble or a constant trauma to your family. And if it's not by God's grace, you can even not even grow and be a good, like, be a better person. But so, and those children, the people that are going to testify, they overcame it, they grew out of it, and I'm so looking forward to interview them. So yeah, so thank you so much, Mr. Omistas, for sharing
Kancana
this.
Matara.
Sorry, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing the stories and uh, and um, and teaching us the like the power, like, of embracing the um, the pain. So I'm so glad. So yeah. So thank you,
Yeah,
Monsieur
icyo
Francois.
icyo
Do you
na
have it? Oh yes. Sorry. Yeah.
icyo narangirizaho ni uko iyi etape, il y a des étapes pour guérir ou bien pour sortir du mal. Icya mbere ni ukuvuga ngo ndemera, ndabanza nemere ibyabaye, ndebe n'ingaruka yabyo, nubwo ari mbi nzirebe, nzemere, aho kuzihakana. Ubundi ndebe noneho n'abashoboye kubisohokamo, abateye intambwe, ndebe ingaruka bibaha, noneho ndebe n'aba bandi babivuyemo burundu uko babayeho, kandi izi etape natwe tuzazikora. Wabonye ko tuvugisha umuntu wicaye ariko uvuga ubyemera, kuko hari benshi batabyemera. Noneho tuzagera no ku bandi bakoze reconciliation ryayo, ubyemera noneho agasaba imbabazi abandi bakazimuha. Urumva izi etape ni ingenzi kugira ngo noneho abana bacu babone modeli bakurikiza, ariko bange na bya bindi bibi byabaye. Murakoze cyane.
Okay, so to conclude, Hormida says that healing involves a number of phases and a number of stages. The first stage is recognizing the wrong done. The second stage is to accept it as your own responsibility. The third stage is then so kind of true healing, or so freedom from that bondage.
Yeah.
And if there is a number 4, is there any number 4?
Free. Is it free? iya gatatu ni ukubivamo. Tuvuge nka Aline yabivuyemo, arababarira, buriya ni modeli y'abantu bashobora
kurebera. Niyo nise freedom from bondage.
Ye ni iya gatatu. No, iya kabiri rero ni cya gihe cya repentance, wa wundi ushaka guhinduka.
Like repentance is a complete transformation, like going from a place of like what John said, John the repentant killer. He said that he went from being a monster. That's what he said. I didn't say that, but from being a monster to being a human being, or like recognizing that his action, asking for forgiveness, and getting into reconciliation with the people that he wanted to kill, and then living in community with them. So he's talking about the fact that will be an example for our children to look up to, like a model of reconciliation and living in oneness, in community together, so that we can build a better future, a better Rwanda. Not only Rwanda, like the world needs a better future. Like we need a model, like a world model for the world. It doesn't matter if you're Rwandan or not. Like you don't have to go through the genocide to there are people in America that are sexually abused, that are raped every day. So it's like getting in a place of healing is not just for genocide survivors. Like even here we have sexual abuse, we have rape, we have harassment, sexual harassment, we have molestation. So all of that, we need to be able to talk, to share those testimonies of hope and of people that go from bondage to freedom, so that they can be example for the future. So yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Omistas. Yeah. Mr. Francois, do you have any other parting shot before I just let people know about what will happen on Thursday?
Yeah. So, Aline, I think that we know to have words enough to thank you for what you are doing. So, letting people knowing about this. So, the story by Homisa Ijai told us are terrible, are heartbreaking, and we can see that human. We cannot not imagine how a human being can be so bad, so wicked, saying this. She has not suffered enough. I still have to invent, to use my brain to find ways to make her suffer more with the famous bamboo sticks. So I don't know. So
I think it's like like John, what John said. You really have to not be a human. Like this is also one of the reasons why I'm passionate about this cause, because nowadays we're talking about human rights. Okay, we're talking about human rights of how people are not treated well, how genocide perpetrators are not treated well, how they need their rights. But during the genocide, where was the real human rights? Like putting a bamboo stick in a woman, that's not human right. That's beyond human rights. Like, so for me, I feel like we have to talk about his story so that we understand that there are people that are not alive today that didn't have any right. Their right was stripped away from them. They were literally not even. I won't even say, because honestly, I don't even think I can kill an animal by doing what they did to those women, by putting those things in their private part. Like, honestly, like,
So that's the reason why. That's the reason why people in America, people in Europe, and elsewhere must have this other side of the story, because we experience Western NGOs helping the perpetrators who were living in eastern Zaire. So refugees were, so all the aid which was meant for Rwanda would go there, while here in Rwanda, people, genocide survivors, were still, had nothing to eat, had no water to, had no place where to sleep, and still those Western that Western money and aids went to the Interam, to the killers. So it is good they listen to another side of the story, which is what this platform. Yes, Romidas.
Mm. Ikintu nari nibagiye kubabwira kandi mbona cyiza, kuwa kane, uyu wa kane tuzabona umupsikologe wagiriye inama abo bagore. Rwose ndakeka azaduha amakuru meza, kandi yabyemeye, yambwira rwose ko azaza akaba ahari akagira icyo atubwira. Nawe ni umugore warokotse jenoside, ariko akaba yarabonye umwanya wo kugenda abagira inama. Ngira ngo afite byinshi azatubwira, muhishimwe, muzumva kuwa kane.
Okay, so here Homidas makes an announcement that next Thursday will appear a psychologist who worked with those women who went through the rape or during the genocide. So she is agreeing to come on this platform and testify on her patients.
yes, and that's what I was actually. We missed us. We had the same spirit. So I wanted to let people know, because this Thursday we were supposed to have an interview with a repentant genocide killer, but since we started this talk about the testimonies of people that were sexually abused and the children that were born from that, it's important also to talk about mental health, because, like, in Africa, it's not only in Rwanda, even in America, even here in America, in the African communities, like, mental health is still very hard for people to accept that, you need really to talk to a therapist. Like, you're not crazy not to talk about, like, therapy. Therapy is important. I had to go through 15 therapists to be able to sit here and talk. Like, it's important to do therapy. So I'm so glad we have somebody who is a therapist, who is a psychologist, who actually mentored, or I can't say mentored, but like somebody who treated those women, and she's going to share with us how she helped those women to talk and share their story of being sexually abused, because it's a topic that is very hard to talk about. It's a very hard topic to talk about, because it brings a lot of shame. It brings a lot of shame on the family, on the perpetrator, on the victim, and sometimes even the society blames the victim. When you share your story, instead of the society actually protecting the victim, the society now stigmatize the victim. So that's why some victims don't even want to talk about it, because they don't want to be stigmatized. They don't want to be like pointed over and say, oh, this person was done. So I'm so glad that this week we are going to consecrate this week for sexual abuse topic, and recovery and mental health. So on October 21st, we are going to have this interview with this woman, and she's going to share like the experience of her clients, and also she's a genocide survivor, so she will also share a little bit. We'll ask her a little bit about her own experience if she's willing to to share it with us. So this week we will consecrate this week for testimonies of sexual abused women and the children that they had during the genocide against the Tutsis of 1994. Then next week we are going to talk about repented genocide killers, because it's very, we can't really mix both. We have to, like, you can't, it's like mixing water and oil. It's very hard to mix both. So it's important to have a week for them and a week for, it doesn't mean that we hate them. Like, honestly, we don't. We don't. But we need to specifically have a special week where we can talk about these painful topics that really are hard to talk about. Like, even me right now, I'm shivering, like I'm cold, because it triggers, because it's you can't even imagine, like, somebody being raped by a number of people that she doesn't even know the number of people. I was raped by one person, so I cannot imagine uh, having and countless of people raping me. And even one person, it traumatized me. It took a lot of therapies to make me who I am today, and the grace of God, of course. So I invite you to come. If you've been harassed, if you've been into sexual abuse, molestation, and all that, please come. You don't have to have been in the genocide to relate. Like, it doesn't matter which country you are. There's always sexual abuse cases in every part of the world. So this is a week of sexual abuse awareness and mental health awareness. So we will see you on Thursday. So thank you so
Okay.
much, and we will
Welcome.
see
Thank
you.
you.
So, Monsieur
Thank you very
Francois,
much.
See you.
Monsieur Francois, can you pray us out?
Nyagasani, mana y'u Rwanda kandi mana y'isi, turagushimira ko utukibeshejeho. Turiho turavuga ibya jenoside yakorewe abatutsi, turiho turavuga iby'abayirokotse, turiho turavuga ibibazo baciyemo n'ukuntu bashoboye kubabarira n'ukuntu bashoboye kwiyubaka, bakaba bava mu bunyamaswa barimo icyo gihe, bakaba barabaye abantu. Turagushimira ibyo byose babikoze ku bwabo, ku mbaraga zawe. Ukomeze ubafashe, ntibazasubira inyuma, bakomeze bubake igihugu cyacu neza. Kandi n'iki kiganiro turimo uzakomeze, kuko kigamije kuvugurura, kigamije kubwira abatabizi ukuri kw'ibyabaye. Barabicwe, bibaho, ariko udufashe kubagorora, basubira heza, bafata u Rwanda n'abatutsi nk'aho atari abanzi bawe, nk'aho atari abanzi b'isi, kuko bicaga abatutsi bavuga ngo warabatanze. Ntabwo ari byo. Turagushimira rero yuko wadufashije, tukaba tukiriho. Udufashe dukomeze gutya, tubwira abatabizi, kugira ngo u Rwanda n'isi bizarusheho kuba nziza.
Thank
Amen.
you so
Murakoze.
much, and we will see you on Thursday, same place, same time. God bless you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.